town. We drove around in his 32 Chevy, and he introduced me to many of his friends, like Tommy Hickson, Virgie O'Brien, and Red Rumney. There was also Peter Perkins, who got a full scholarship to MIT. Unfortunately, Earl contracted rheumatic fever one winter, was in bed for 16 weeks, and developed eventually fatal rheumatic heart disease. He was one of the kindest people I have ever known, and he just wanted everyone else to have a good time. And that was Earl next to Rob, leaning against that old plane.
Okay.
I remember the shore suppers. We built rock platforms heated for hours by a driftwood fire, and then layered seaweed, clams, lobsters, and corn. Sam Calderwood and Bill Pendleton were the cooks. We dug bean holes in the beach, lined them with rocks, and built a fire in the hole while Mom soaked beans on Friday night. On Saturday, we shoveled out the fire, placed the bean pot in the bottom of the hole, and covered it with hot sand. Then Grandma Calderwood made the brown bread. Tom Calderwood, next slide. You got that one? That's the right one.
That's it.
Yeah. Tom Calderwood was like a member of the family, and I always looked up to him. Dad always made jobs for him, like scaling a tall pine next to a flagpole that he could perform some dangerous maintenance, and repairing the mast of the Seagull, which he had inadvertently snapped while attempting to leap from the boat to the dock in heavy sea. Tom also had other things to worry about. He played tricks on Tad and the Driscoll brothers, and they developed suitable punishments, like hanging him upside down in a barn and shooting him with BBs, and launching him on a raft in an offshore wind heading out for the open ocean.
And from Tad's stall, the boathouse was our foul-weather playroom much of the time.
Get closer.
It had only the beach as its floor and contained quite a variety of leftover marine items, lengths of chain, iron staples, and various cut lines, etc. When the Day family rented the shore cottage, they appropriated the boathouse to garage their opulent new Packard touring car, and we were banished. Dr. Day was fanatic about this car, frequently bringing it out to be admired and applying his feather duster. Since there was very little clearance between the car and the walls, and since we still regarded the boathouse as our private domain, finger and handprints frequently appeared. On one occasion, as we were hiding beneath their kitchen window, Dr. Day stormed through the house, shouting that he would fingerprint every kid in the neighborhood. Mrs. Day, who occasionally addressed her husband in baby talk, thought that might inconvenience people, and he backed off. Kelly Meg's family, the Bryants,
Next slide.
rented what's now the O'Brien Cottage, and lived on Cottage Street summers in the late 30s. One reason for selecting the cottage was the boat stored in the main room, an inboard which her brother wanted to use to pull lobster traps. One of Kelly's pictures shows Sam Calderwood's garage. Their house is up behind.
Let's see the next one. It might be the next one. Yeah, here. No. I guess it is the other one. Back.
Well, I guess we're going out with that one.
I can't see it. It's there.
Anyhow, there was Sam Calderwood's garage, and their house is up behind that, and that was before Miss Walker's, which is now Calderwood House. Before Miss Walker died behind us, and they moved to her house, which is where Tom and Marty now live. My mother and one of her older sisters is sitting on the front steps of the cottage. She had 4 sisters and 4 brothers. The car is a LaSalle. I think that's back one.
Yeah, and that was the other one.
Yeah. In which I learned to drive. It is the car which I was driving when I put it into reverse and stepped on the gas, making a lovely U into the banker, Mr. Blodgett's car up on Main Street, next to the old brick bank, now Left Bank Books. And from Lynn Blanchard O'Brien, I believe it was 1958 when we had our horses. Before that, remember when Judy Card used to ride her horse Rex down to Cottage Street, and sometimes she would give us a ride? It was the greatest thrill when we got ours. Diane's was Captain, and mine was Mickey. We kept them over in Murphy's barn. We used to take them swimming, and I remember Diane's horse got colic eating moldy grain.
That's good. From Jane Landmesser, my most vivid memories are playing with Sean and Amy Fawcett on the hills in front of the Jackson Cottage. We would roll down those hills or play King of the Mountain on the golf course greens. We would also hang out by the tennis court and watch the older teenagers play and wrestle around with them while they were waiting to play their tennis match. I specifically remember bothering Helen, Mary, and Penny. From Andy Nichols, oh yes, you got that. Bonfires were often unpopular. The beaches were very clean then. We actually hunted for wood. Marshmallows and singing ruled the day. Maybe some hot dogs too. Hot diggity, dog ziggity, boom, what you do. When we weren't playing, we were learning, Helen recalls. Yes. Being blessed to be a part of a group of friends and cousins who gathered to walk up Cottage Street in jeans, yellow cotton shirts, blue ties, and caps with lunch boxes, ready for a day at Tally Ho Day Camp in Stockton. Twice each week, Colonel Skipper Johnson picked us up at the head of Norris Street with the Tally Ho bus. As a retired cavalry officer, he taught us horseback riding, grooming, and care of nearly a dozen wonderful riding horses. We spent time in the huge barn, its giant haymow, and stalls for 10 horses whose names we affectionately recall. We had counselors to guide us in crafts and horsemanship, and Lilith Johnson to mother us and provide us with gallons of Kool-Aid throughout the day. We rode in the ring, on trail rides, in horse shows, and even explored a huge culvert provided for the horses to cross under the newly constructed Route 1 Stockton Springs bypass. And from Skip Stahl, at age 11, 1956, I wasn't particularly savvy about consensus building, the importance of real estate markers, or how double agents could undermine the effectiveness of a really good invasion plan. But I learned all of that and more playing Capture the Flag. What had been built in the 1930s as a chip and cut golf course in front of the Stoll and Jackson cottages was sometimes transformed into contested turf. The dirt road up to the cottages divided the opposing teams, and each team had 2 bunkered golf greens to aid their flag-hiding defenses. And the game would grow in intensity as each new kid was recruited. Often, the biggest challenge was realizing, sometimes too late, that a previous team member of yours had been captured and become a turncoat zombie competitor. Too late, game over. Then teams would reshuffle, flags would be hidden again, and your last defeat would be pushed aside by the potential of the new challenge. Sweet.
We were always curious and stretching the bounds of Cottage Street. Bill Landmesser recalls that the green craftsman-style cottage down the shore from Savage's was a curiosity.
Next one. Next slide.
It became known to the kids of Cottage Street as the ghost house. Rumor had it that the owners, who never seemed to be there, had killed and buried a horse out back, or even in the barn behind the cottage. Also, upon peering through the diamond-paned windows, one would supposedly see hanging on the wall a rather chilling painting depicting pirates or other roguish activity. In our minds, this had to be the lair of some deviant recluse. Our challenge became that of verifying these